Imagine this. One prophet standing alone against 450. The air is thick with doubt, the crowd restless, and on one side, an altar drenched in water. The lone prophet, Elijah, looks to heaven and whispers a single heartfelt prayer. Then, suddenly, boom! Fire plummets from the sky, consuming everything in its path, the wood, the stones, the sacrifice, even the water. This was no ordinary miracle. This was God proving, once and for all, who truly reigns over the heavens and the earth. This is the story of the fire from heaven, the miracle that silenced Baal. It was during the reign of King Ahab, a dark time when the nation of Israel had largely forgotten the God of their fathers. Influenced by his wife, Queen Jezebel, the people had turned to worshiping Baal, the Canaanite storm god. But one voice still echoed the truth: Elijah, God's prophet. He stood as a last beacon of faith in a sea of idolatry. To settle the matter, he called for a public test on Mount Carmel, a dramatic showdown to reveal the one true God. He declared to the people, "How long will you waver between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal is God, then follow him." The challenge was laid out simply. 2 altars, 2 sacrifices, 2 prayers. The God who answered with fire would be declared the true God. The 450 prophets of Baal began their ritual first. From morning until noon, they chanted, shouted, and danced in a frenzy around their altar, calling on Baal to send fire. But there was no voice, no answer, no one who paid attention. As the hours dragged on, their desperation grew. They began to cut themselves with swords and spears, as was their custom, until blood flowed freely. Their cries echoed across the mountain, a desperate plea into a silent sky. But nothing happened. Their God remained silent, their altar cold. As evening approached, their voices faded into an exhausted, empty silence. The wind blew across the mountain, carrying only the sound of a few gasps from the watching crowd. Then, with a calm, composed, and fearless demeanor, Elijah stepped forward. Now it was Elijah's turn. He began not with a frenzied dance, but with a simple act of restoration. He rebuilt the Lord's altar with 12 stones, one representing each tribe of Israel, reminding the people of their unified covenant with God. Then he did something that must have seemed utterly insane to everyone watching. In a stunning act of absolute confidence, he commanded the people to douse the sacrifice and the wood with water. They poured 4 large jars of water over the offering. He said, "Do it a second time." And they did it a second time. Then he said, "Do it a third time." And they did it a third time. Water ran down the altar and completely filled the trench he had dug around it. Everything was drenched, soaked through and through. To any human eye, setting this pile ablaze was impossible. But for Elijah, it was the perfect stage for God to reveal his unmatched power. With everything prepared, he lifted his hands to the sky and prayed a simple, powerful prayer. "Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known this day that you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant, and have done all these things at your command. Answer me, Lord, answer me, so these people will know that you, Lord, are God, and that you are turning their hearts back again." And then it happened. The sky seemed to crack open with a mighty roar. A brilliant, terrifying fire fell from heaven. It didn't just singe the sacrifice. It utterly consumed it. It burned the wood, the stones, and the very dust beneath the altar. It even licked up every last drop of water that filled the trench. In an instant, everything was gone. The raw, untamable power of God was on full display. When the people saw this, they fell prostrate on the ground, their faces to the earth. A single cry rose from the crowd, a unified roar of conviction. "The Lord, He is God! The Lord, He is God!" In one blinding, magnificent moment, the truth had silenced deception. Elijah, who had stood alone against hundreds, was vindicated, not by his own strength, but by the glorious power of the God he served. This incredible event on Mount Carmel was so much more than just a miracle of fire. It was a profound battle of faith. Elijah's boldness didn't come from a place of pride or arrogance, but from a deep, unshakable trust in God's power and his promises. He knew that the more impossible the situation looked, the more glory God would receive when he intervened. Sometimes in our own lives, we face our own impossible altars. These might be situations soaked in doubt, fear, anxiety, or pain. It can feel like we're in a hopeless spot, a place where no fire will ever come, where no answer will ever break the silence. We might feel outnumbered and alone, just as Elijah did. But God's timing is perfect. It is often in those moments when the world tells us it's impossible, when our own strength has run out, that He shows up in the most spectacular ways, in fire, in strength, and in glory. Elijah's miracle wasn't about putting on a show or demonstrating his own power. Its purpose was to call an entire nation back to God, to turn their hearts away from false idols and back to the one true source of life and hope. And today, that same story calls to us. It encourages us to rebuild our own altars of faith, to surrender our fears and doubts, and to soak our impossible situations in prayer. It reminds us to trust that when we call on Him, heaven still listens, and heaven still answers with fire. The Lord, He is God. Thank you so much for watching. If this story inspired you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more content that explores faith and history. We'll see you in the next one.